we're going to be talking about today is graphs of exponential functions and graphs of logarithmic functions, all right? So here's our original function, y equals 3 to the power of x, and we have y equals 4 times 3 to the power of negative x minus 1, okay? So right here, we have a number right here, the number 4. There's going to be what's called a vertical stretch. So there's a vertical stretch by a factor of 4. Which means all the y values are going to be multiplied by 4 before it's correct. We have a negative x. Now that follows this rule. F of negative x. Now what happens when you have a negative there? It's going to be reflected across the y-axis. Okay, so whenever you're multiplying the x value, if you're making all the x values negative, they're reflected across the y-axis. And then the third thing that's happening is there's a translation or a shift down. Translated 1 unit down. So we'll have an asymptote right here at y equals -1. There will be a what's called a horizontal asymptote. We're going to use our graphing calculator to show you all the different things. Now let's do some investigation here. What I want you guys to do is I want you guys to type in 3 to the power of x, and I want you guys to type in 3 to the power of negative x, and I want you guys to see how things are reflected across the y-axis. So you see how the blue graph, when it becomes the red graph, it reflects across the y-axis, and that's what happens with that little negative x. Okay. All right, now over here, if I put in front of it, I'm going to second delete. I'm going to type in a 4. It's second delete, type in a times. So 4 times 3 to the power of negative x. It's still going to be reflected across the y-axis, but you're going to notice that it's a heck of a lot more vertical. Like it's going down really steeply. Okay? So there's still that reflection. And then the last thing we're going to do at the very end is we're going to put a -1. And we're going to see it shifted. Everything's going to be shifted down 1 unit. So now we have a horizontal asymptote right there at -1, where y is equal to -1. Right here. There we go. There's your horizontal asymptote. Now, on your problems, all you got to do is find the graph that matches. Now you can hit, I'm going to hit y equals, I'm going to clear this out, I'm going to hit second graph. We're going to look at the table. So what should our order of pairs be? At a 0 and a 3, and a -1 and an 11, and 1 and a third. So we're going to go over here to our graph. Ooh, A is looking very promising. B is definitely not it. C is definitely not it. And D also looks kind of promising. But where is that point located? Right there. 0 what? 0, 0. Where is ours located at? A 0 and a 3. You look at the table. Look at your table. 0 and a 3. So does everybody understand why I would choose answer choice A over D? Because D, where is it crossing? At 0, 0. Ooh, we got another graph. How in the world am I going to graph this? Now, what we're going to do right here, see that +7? That's going to give us our asymptote. Our asymptote is going to be all the way up at a 7. So what I'm going to do right here, is our graph going to look like this, or it's going to look like this. Logarithms look like this. Exponential functions look like this. See the asymptote? Where's the asymptote right now? At y equals 0. Where is this asymptote located? at x equals 0. So anytime you have an exponential function, make sure you have this graph. This is an exponential function. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move. We've got to go all the way up here. We've got to move this all the way up to a 7. Move these up real quick. Moving these up to a 7. Why a 7? Because it says plus 7. Now we're going to go ahead and type this in our graphing calculator. All right. So what's going to be happening in this graph? I'm going to write it down. Y equals -2 times 1/3. So x plus 1 plus 7. All right. So now we have a negative right here. A negative right here. I'm going to highlight the 3 things that are happening in this graph. We got something there, something here, something right here. 1 is dealing with negative f of x. What's happening when you have negative f of x? It's reflected across the x-axis. That's what you're going to write in your journal. It reflects across the x-axis. Number 2. What's happening when it says x plus 1? Right here, there's translation. That means f of x plus 1, that means it's going to translate 1 unit to the left, because -1 plus 1 gets me back to 0. And the last thing is number 3. F of x plus, I'm going to call it k. And our k value is a 7, so it translates everything up 7 units. So those are the 3 things that are happening in this. All right, so I'm going to go y equals. I'm going to go down here and type it in. -2, open parentheses, 1 divided by 3, close parentheses, to the power of x plus 1. And then we have a plus 7, but this time I'm going to hit zoom number 6. Okay? So this is what our graph is going to look like. My suggestion is this. Find your table. Pick out 2 points. I'm going to plot these 2 points right here. A -2 and a 1 and a -1 and a 5. A -2 and a 1 and a -1 and a 5. Those are the 2 points I'm going to be plotting. So right here, I'm going to have to move it down. What do I have? A -2 and a 1 and a -1 and a 5. Let's see if I got to make sure I put it right there on that point. I'm going to check once more. -2, 1, -1, 5. Those were my points. What was the very first thing that I had to do in this? I had to draw in my horizontal asymptote. That's the very first thing. Then I can plot my 2 points and check it. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to logarithms. Right here. We're going to do 2 logarithm problems. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write down the original logarithm. We're going to write down the new logarithm. And there's only 2 things that are going to be happening in this graph. Only 2.
Isn't the x minus 2 or one step to the left or right?
Yes. Inside the parentheses always goes left or right. Outside the parentheses always goes up or down. So the first thing that happens is everything gets shifted or translates 2 units to the right. I'll just correct it. 2 units to the right, and this one translates 1 unit down. So if I were to look at this graph right here, I'm going to put a point right here, and then I'm just going to put a point right there. Okay? Right here and right there. So from these points, what's going to happen? It's going to go 2 units to the right. So if that's at a 1, then it'd be at a 3. So it'll go right about here at a 3, and then it's going to go 1 unit down. So it's going to go 2 units to the right, and 1 unit down, so that point would be right about there. Over here, it's going to go 2 units to the right, and 1 unit down, right about there. So we'll have a graph that comes up, hits that point, and hits that point. Okay? Except for one thing, there's going to be a vertical asymptote. Right now, in this graph, the vertical asymptote is right here. If I go 2 units to the right, the new vertical asymptote will actually be right there. Now I'm going to do this in Desmos because it's easier to see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type it into Desmos so you guys can see. Alright, so we're going to go and type this in. I'm going to go functions, I'm going to go miscellaneous, there's the log, I'm going to type in a 3 and an x. So there's our original function. And then our new function was the same thing except 3, and was it what, x minus 2? And then it was a minus 1. Okay? Our original asymptote was x equals 0 right there. Our new asymptote is actually x equals 2 right here. So when you're graphing these, you're going to have to draw in your vertical asymptote when you're graphing these for Khan Academy. All right? And then this is the graph that we're going to pick right here. So we're going to go down. It was shifted, what, 2 units to the right, not to the left, 2 units to the right. So you guys can clearly see what's our answer for this one. It's going to be answer choice B. Now this one's going to be a little bit trickier. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and graph this. So here we go. It says negative 2 log base 3 of x plus 4. The first thing you're going to do when you're graphing these is you're going to change it so that you have what's called a vertical asymptote. Now, our vertical asymptote is going to be located at a negative 4. Because what number plus 4 gets me to 0? Negative 4. So you have to plot, that's the very first thing that you need to draw in. You need to draw in your vertical asymptote. Then you're going to go to your calculator. You're going to hit y equals. You're going to type in negative 2. Now what am I going to type in? Log base 3. So what do we need to type in? Alpha window number 5. Alpha window number 5. Put a 3. Over here, we're going to type in an x plus a 4. And we're going to check our table. And we're going to write down a couple of points. Our points that we're going to use are a negative 3 and a 0, and a negative 1 and a negative 2. So negative 3, 0, and a negative 1 and a negative 2. Alright? So negative 3, 0, negative 1, negative 2. This is what my graph's going to look like, except it should keep going. Graphing calculator kind of cuts it off. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go back, and we're going to use what? Negative 3 and a 0 and a negative 1 and a... There we go. Check my table. Negative 3, 0, negative 1, negative 2. Negative 3, 0. Oh, I gotta go negative 1. Negative 2, negative 3, 0, right there. So we have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, 0. That is our graph. So what was the very first thing that we had to draw in? We had to draw in our vertical asymptote. Then what did I do? I went to my graphing calculator. I typed in my function. I found my ordered pairs right here. And then went to those ordered pairs, plotted them, and that's what I want you to do. Okay?